Здравствуйте, товарищи. Welcome back to Russian Through Propaganda. Today is day 19, and we're going to see first what happens when you use multiple verbs in a Russian sentence, how that affects aspect, and then we'll talk more about how to use infinitives in Russian. I think today's lesson is fairly easy, especially after the last 2 days. Anyway, let's look at a Soviet propaganda poster. Накопил и машину купил. Okay, I saved up and bought a car. So we see we have two verbs, nakapit and kupit. Those are both perfective. This is one of several posters we'll see encouraging Russians to save their money at basically a Soviet savings bank called the Sberkassa. Um, okay, so we have two verbs here, and they're both perfective. Now we don't know these verbs. The pair for saving up is kapit, nakapit, and the pair for buying is покупать, купить. Okay, so if we knew those pairs, we would spot these both as perfective verbs, and both of these verbs are perfective because they're describing a sequence. Right, whenever you have a sequence of events in Russian, right, first A, then B, then C, then D, or whatever, you're going to get a string of perfective verbs. The reason for that is that this guy had to save up the money first and complete that action before he could then go on to the next item in the sequence and buy the car. Right, so you see how that sequencing kind of entails the idea of completion and therefore calls for perfective verbs in Russian. Uh, okay, so let's do some quick math here, right? If we have two aspects, right, imperfective, perfective, how many possibilities are there for combining verbs in terms of aspect in sentences? Well, we could have both verbs being imperfective. We could have both verbs being perfective, or we could have one imperfective, one perfective, right? We could have a mixture. Okay, so those are the three possibilities. Let's look at them one at a time. First, we could have multiple imperfective verbs. For example, мы сидели и смотрели телевизор. We were sitting and watching television. Or, когда мы смотрели телевизор, ребенок читал. While we were sitting and watching television, or simply while we were watching television, the child was reading. Okay, what do we have here? We can think of these as overlapping extended actions, right? So uh, we were sitting and watching television. Okay, there's right, two verbs there, and they're both extended actions that are overlapping, right? We were sitting and watching, right? Sitting and watching like this, right? So think of it, visualize it that way, right? Or in the second example, когда мы смотрели телевизор, right? While we were watching ongoing action, meanwhile the child was playing, right? Sorry, reading. What a good child. The child was reading. Ребенок читал. Okay, so overlapping actions with multiple imperfective verbs. Okay, second, like in the poster, we can have multiple perfective verbs that describe a sequence. Right, so often we could highlight the idea of a sequence by throwing in some adverbs like sначала, meaning first, right? First I did this, потом, which means then I did something else, and наконец, finally, I did whatever, right? So let's watch for those adverbs in sequences. Например, right, for example, сначала я прочитала газету, потом написала письмо и, наконец, посмотрела мой любимый сериал. Okay, so first I read the newspaper, then I wrote a letter, finally I watched my favorite TV series. Okay, so first A, then B, then C, right, sequence. One activity ends before another can begin. I think it's probably pretty clear why we need perfective verbs here. Okay. Although, by the way, what if you have a repeating sequence? Well, just as we discussed yesterday, then we'd get the imperfective, right? So this whole idea of sequence would be kind of trumped by the imperfective when we say things like, first I would read the newspaper, right, every evening. Well, first I'd read the newspaper, then I'd write a letter, then I'd watch TV, right? That type of repeating sequence, that would, of course, be imperfective. Now, let's look at a couple that include inception, right? Он прочитал письмо и заплакал. He read the letter, right? He read it completely, and he burst out crying. Он заплакал. Right. Когда я его увидела, я сразу полюбила его. The moment I caught sight of him, I immediately fell in love, right? Or I came to love him, right? Когда я его увидела, я сразу полюбила его. Now look there, we also have this little clue, сразу, right? Immediately. We could think of that as as a perfective red flag, right? But in any case, here we have a sequence. Okay, finally, let's look at a couple of examples with these poor perfectives, right? После занятия мы посидели и поговорили. After class, we sat around for a bit and had a chat, right? Посидеть means to sit for a bit. Поговорить, to chat for a bit, just to talk for a bit. Now, again, we can think of those usually as alternate perfectives, right? Because we know, for example, the perfective of говорить, the normal perfective is сказать, right? But again, this is a special one, meaning to talk for a bit, right? Поговорить means to talk for a bit. Now, we said that generally сидеть doesn't really have a perfective, but we can form this alternate perfective, meaning to sit for a bit, посидеть, посидеть. As we mentioned, those verbs of that nature, right, perfectives in poor, meaning for a bit, can be created basically spontaneously for almost any action verb, right? Anything you can do for a bit, you can make a verb like this. And Russians use these verbs all the time, right? So um, this is really something to take note of because it's pretty easy and it's extremely common. Okay, let's see that more as a clear sequence, right? Сначала почитаю, потом напишу письмо, right? First I'll read a bit, then I'll write a letter. So there's, right, doing stuff for a bit where it's clearly a sequence. Okay, what about a combination of imperfective and perfective verbs? Well, the imperfective, if you have this kind of combination, we can think of the imperfective as kind of setting the backdrop, right? So something was ongoing, right? When suddenly, bam, you have this kind of perfective, one time, sudden, completed action kind of bursting in against this ongoing action that's kind of a backdrop. Okay, so you could also think of imperfective verbs as kind of setting the scene, and then perfective verbs as advancing the narrative, right? Something actually happens. Again, it could be a sequence of events that ensues, right? So if you're reading a novel, for example, that could be one way to think about aspect, right? Are you merely setting the scene, like what was happening, what people were doing, when suddenly something starts happening and you get an actual sequence of perfective verbs. For example, когда я сидела и читала книгу, он меня спросил, какую книгу я читаю. While I was sitting and reading a book, okay, so there we have two overlapping imperfective activities. Он меня спросил, okay, so suddenly someone speaks up and asks a question, right? He asks what kind of book I am reading. Now, note, we'll talk about this more later. Note the tense of this reported question in Russian. It preserves the tense of the actual question. Right? What did he actually ask here? He asks, "What are you reading?" Right? He asks the question in the present. Now, in the English, we kind of we switch the tense. We get a tense sequence situation. It's called sequence of tenses. He asked what kind of book I was reading. But again, in the Russian here, he asks what kind of book I am reading, right? We'll talk more about that later, but for now, you might just take note of that difference in tense. Okay, let's look at some examples and just choose the right. I've given you here both possibilities in terms of aspect. Let's just choose the right one to capture the English sentence. While his girlfriend was dancing, he was just sitting and listening to music, right? Simply sitting and listening to music. Okay, sounds like overlapping actions, right? While she was doing this, he was doing something else. So we're going to need imperfectives. Когда его подруга танцевала, он просто сидел и слушал музыку. Okay, pretty easy. Okay, we were dancing when suddenly she asked what my name was. Okay, so backdrop action, ongoing activity, and suddenly, perfective, we have an action that takes place. Мы танцевали, right, imperfective. Мы танцевали, we were dancing, когда она вдруг спросила, как меня зовут. She suddenly asks how they call me, right, what my name is. Okay. Now, by the way, vdrug is also a kind of perfective red flag. So that's another clue here as to what aspect we need. When he had read his brother's letter, he suddenly began to cry. Okay, sounds like a sequence, right? He read the letter, then he burst out crying. Когда он прочитал письмо брата, right, the letter of brother, right? And again, and we simply assume in Russian that it's his brother. Он вдруг, perfective, заплакал. Okay, they sat around and watched television all evening. Okay, ongoing action, right? We've got that целый вечер, right? The entire evening. Они целый вечер сидели и смотрели телевизор. Imperfective. Overlapping, ongoing actions. I'd been reading this Russian novel for an entire semester and finally I finished it. Okay, for a whole semester, an entire semester, I was reading. I had been in the process of reading it, right? That's going to call for imperfective. And then finally, наконец, that's a bit of a perfective red flag. I finished it, right? That's going to be perfective. Я целый семестр читал этот русский роман и, наконец, его прочитал. Number 6, what were you doing today while I was working? Okay, well, that's right, overlapping actions. So, что вы делали, right? What were you up to? What were you doing while I was working? Когда я работала. Now look at this very different question. What did you get done today while I was working? Okay, so we're focused on completion, accomplishment, right? So we're going to need perfective to ask this question. Что вы сделали сегодня, когда я работала? Okay, so you could, a little exercise here, you could tell what you did yesterday evening by talking about overlapping activities or talking about maybe a sequence of things you did, right? So you would choose your aspect accordingly. Okay, let's talk now about how to use infinitives in Russian. We've mentioned this already. We've seen a couple of examples, and the good news is that in the vast majority of cases, the infinitive in Russian mirrors exactly the use of an infinitive in English, right? So, for example, I am able to draw, right? Or for example, I want to draw, right? Okay, well, that to draw in both English examples is an English infinitive, and that's going to correspond very nicely to a Russian infinitive, right? So we're going to see several examples here and kind of list all the verbs we've seen so far that can be followed by an infinitive. And you'll see in pretty much every case that it lines up completely with English, right? So that's nice, and it reminds us that using infinitives in Russian is generally pretty easy. The only trick maybe is to remember that we need the infinitive here, right? We don't need to conjugate that verb, right? But simply use the infinitive. So, for example, I want to read. It's going to be just like the English. Я хочу читать, right? Not я хочу читаю, right? That's a common mistake, right? Again, so just think about the English. I want to read. This is a case where thinking about the English can get you to where you want to be. Okay, so let's just look at some examples here. Хотеть, захотеть. To want, or perfective, to start wanting. That is, we might say in English, to get the urge, right? Perfective. Okay, this verb is irregular. We're going to learn more about how to conjugate it in a moment. Я хочу читать Dostoevskого. I want to read Dostoevsky. Look at him there in the accusative. His name is an adjective, Dostoevsky. He's masculine animate. And so we simply put him into the accusative. It looks like a genitive. Он захотел танцевать. He got the urge to dance, right? He began to want to dance. Infinitive. Мочь, смочь, that's the pair for to be able. So to be able to do something. Now, often in English we would say can, in which case we wouldn't use an infinitive, right? I can do this. I can read Russian. But let's use to be able to make this more clear. Я не могу читать Толстого по-русски. I am not able to read Tolstoy in Russian. Я не смогу все прочитать. I won't be able to read everything. Okay, talking about accomplishment. I won't be able to get that done. Okay, уметь, суметь, that's the pair for knowing how to do something or kind of managing to get it done, right? Суметь in the perfective. Мы не умеем танцевать. We don't know how to dance. Okay, versus, for example, он не сумел ответить на вопрос. There's a perfective example. He didn't manage, right? He couldn't manage. He didn't know how. He wasn't able to answer the question. Okay, любить, we love to do things. Just like in English, we say that using an infinitive, right? Same thing in Russian. Мы любим слушать музыку. We love to listen to music. Он любил читать газету каждое утро. He loved to read the newspaper every morning. Успевать, успеть means to manage to do something in time, to get something done in time. Я не успеваю все делать. I'm not managing to do everything. Okay, again, maybe a bit awkward there. I'm not managing to do everything, but you get the idea. I didn't manage to do everything. Я не успел все сделать. Note the perfective. I didn't manage to get it all done in time. Я не успел. Забывать, забыть means to forget. And just like in English, we forget to do something, right? Same thing in Russian. Он часто забывал купить хлеб. He would often forget to buy bread. Note the imperfective забывать, right? He would often forget. Repetition in the past. Он часто забывал купить хлеб. Она забыла прочитать статью. She forgot to read the article. By the way, the verb, we'll talk about this more in a moment, but I think, the verb forgetting, to forget, is followed by an infinitive, and it's usually going to be perfective, right? Because what do we forget? Well, we forget to get something done, right? That's usually the implication, like, oh, I forgot to read that article, right? It's not that I forgot to spend a bit of time reading it or kind of try to read it. Usually the idea is I forgot to get it read, right? I forgot to do this, that, or the other, right? So generally, the забыть, to forget, will be followed by a. Okay, next, просить, попросить. Remember that means to ask someone to do something. It has nothing to do with questions, right? It has to do with requests. And just like in English, she asked me to buy bread, right? We get an infinitive in Russian. Она меня попросила купить хлеб. Я хотел попросить тебя прочитать статью. I wanted to ask you to read the article. Okay, finally, решать, решить. That can mean to solve something, and we'll often be using it that like to solve a math problem. We'll often use it in that sense. But it can also mean to decide to do something or to resolve to do something. So just like in English, we get an infinitive. She decided to buy a new car. Она решила купить новую машину. Or она решила не покупать новую машину. There we see a tendency I'd rather not talk too much about right now, but let's just say that very often if you have negative situations, you tend to get imperfective verbs. So we're going to talk more about that later. Down the road, it'll be more clear why that is the case. But for now, let's maybe just notice that and move on. Okay, let's talk about the verb хотеть, to want. We just saw it a moment ago in our introduction to using infinitives, right? It's an irregular verb, okay? Now, this is another thing that's really important to keep in mind just to make Russian seem manageable. And it's good news. There are very, very, very few irregular verbs in Russian. really only a handful of them. And хотеть is one of them. Now that means that in our terms, we can't categorize it under one of our types, right? It doesn't match any of the verb types in the table at the back of the book, right? It's truly irregular. Um, that'll also mean that when we mark up a verb like that that's irregular, we won't follow up the infinitive with a type, right? There won't be any type there because it has no type. So if you see a verb like that, that means, okay, it's going to just do its own thing, and I'm going to have to look it up in a dictionary or whatever to figure out how it conjugates, right? I can't refer to the table in the back of the book. Let's look at an example, a poster here. I guess this falls under the shower regularly theme of Soviet posters. Если хочешь быть здоров, закаляйся. If you want to be healthy, take a bracing cold shower. I guess with the whole family. I mean, I guess the whole family is going to join in here. Why not? Seems a bit weird, but whatever. Okay, let's see. Let's look at this verb. Хотеть, захотеть. There's our pair. Okay, look at how bizarre the conjugation is. Хочу, хочешь, хочет, хотим, хотите, хотят. Okay, how is it weird? Well, it's shifting around in a totally crazy way, right? It's not following any normal stress pattern, and it's combining yeah and e endings, and we're getting weird mutation patterns, right? Cha cha cha, and then back to te te te, right? So totally bizarre in at least 3 different ways. Okay, so we can see it's irregular. Okay, now another really useful rule of thumb is that if we take a verb like хотеть and make a new verb by adding a prefix, like захотеть, right? In some of those perfective forms, we've seen that. That new form is going to conjugate exactly like the starting form, right? Adding the prefix is not going to affect the conjugation pattern. And it doesn't matter if the starting verb belongs to a regular type or if it's irregular, right? So захотеть is going to conjugate exactly like хотеть in the same way that прочитать is going to conjugate exactly like читать. So захочу, захочешь, захочет, захотим, захотите, захотят. Now let's look over a few other verbs here. Some of these are new, right? And all of these can be followed by infinitives. I think this is a new one. Забывать, забыть. Okay, we see забывать is an I verb. It's actually one of those derived imperfectives in vai, right? It's added that suffix vai. But our starting verb was забыть. Namely, that's a prefixed form of быть, right? That verb we already knew. And we're going to conjugate that using what actually were the future tense forms of быть, right? We get забуду, забудешь, забудет, забудем, забудете, забудут. Okay, so because быть is kind of a funny verb, we can think of забыть as well as an irregular verb, and therefore we're not marking it by type. Okay, but all of these remaining verbs that can be followed by an infinitive, they belong to irregular types. So let's look them over, maybe and review a bit. Успевать, успеть. Okay, by the way, успевать, that's a derived imperfective of vai, derived imperfective. So it's an I verb. Успеваю, успеваешь, успевает, and so forth. Успеть, if you remember, is a yay verb. Успею, успеешь, успеет, успеем, успеете, успеют. Уметь and суметь are both yay verbs. There's another example. To get the perfective, we've simply added a prefix, but that's not going to affect the conjugation. So we have умею, умеешь, умеет, умеем, умеете, умеют. Right? Or perfective, сумею, сумеешь, сумеет, сумеем, сумеете, сумеют. And finally, любить. Now remember, we do have a perfective verb, polubить, but if we talk about loving to do things, usually we're going to be using the imperfective. At any rate, it's a normal verb, right? Люблю, любишь, любит, любим, любите, любит. Okay, let's do a quick exercise just filling in forms of хотеть, right? This irregular verb. Я, okay, have you learned the table yet? Я хочу смотреть фильм, а она не хочет. Я хочу, а она не хочет. They want to dance for a bit, but we don't want to. Они хотят потанцевать, а мы не хотим. Они хотят, а мы не хотим. Okay, and finally, 3. Do you, polite or do you plural, want to sit and talk for a bit? To sit for a bit and talk for a bit? Вы не хотите посидеть и поговорить? Right? Do you not want to sit for a bit and talk for a bit? By the way, Russian often negates questions to make them seem just a little bit more polite, right? Would you not like to do this, right? Do you not want to sit for a bit? Вы не хотите посидеть и поговорить? Okay, so needless to say, хотеть is a tricky verb pattern. We really need to take extra care to drill that one. Obviously, it's an extremely common verb, right? So we can't afford to let that one slip through the cracks. Okay, let's take забыть. Again, this is also irregular, but maybe not as difficult. Will you not forget to do your assignment? Ты не забудешь сделать задание. Ты не забудешь сделать задание. Number 5. I think that they will forget to buy a newspaper. Я думаю, что они забудут купить газету. Number 6. Мы вас не забудем, и вы нас не забудете. We will not forget you, and you will not forget us. Okay, so we've seen several verbs that can be followed by an infinitive. Now we have one more thing to talk about. Well, what happens when we choose an infinitive in Russian? We have to choose aspect as well, right? Again, an infinitive is a verb form, and we've talked about, with very few exceptions, Russian verbs come in aspectual pairs. So every time we use a verb, whether we conjugate it or simply use an infinitive, we've still got to make this choice, right? And choosing infinitives, we're going to do that based on the same criteria we were using earlier, right? It's still the same aspectual distinction. So let's look over a few examples and just note some kind of special cases. Let's look first at an imperative example. Я хочу читать этот роман. Okay, compare that with a perfective. Я хочу прочитать этот роман. Okay, so everything about those sentences is identical except for the choice of aspect, right? And so, of course, they're saying rather different things. The first one is simply saying, I want to read this novel, meaning I want to be in the process of reading it, right? I just kind of want to read it in general. Now, note there's no real emphasis on the result. We don't really know if the person plans on finishing it, right? All he's saying is, I want to go about reading the novel. If he says, Я хочу прочитать этот роман, that's clearly emphasizing the result, the completion. And we're being told specifically that he wants to completely read the novel, to read it successfully, completely, perfectively. Okay, let's look at a few special cases. Уметь, meaning to know how to do something, and любить, to love to do something. If you think about it, they generally just imply abilities and loves, right, that are kind of general in nature, right? So they would usually be followed by the imperfective. Like, I like to do this, I like to do that, or I know how to do this, right? The doing, the activity is just kind of a general activity. There's no need to emphasize result, right? So you often get things like Я умею танцевать, right? I know how to dance, just generally speaking, right? Or Я люблю смотреть кино. I like to watch movies. Okay, that's just a general habitual type thing, right? No need for a perfective there. But the perfective verb суметь, right, to know how to do something, speaks to a specific accomplishment. And so it's followed by the perfective, right? So it's not just a general ability to, or a general knowing how to do something, but in this case, managing to get something done, kind of figuring out how to do it. Студент не сумел ответить на вопрос. The student didn't manage to answer the question, right? He wasn't able to answer it. Okay, so here really the question is answering it successfully, right? Not just going about answering it or trying to answer it, but rather successfully answering it. That would be perfective. Or я не сумею нарисовать ее портрет. I won't manage to draw her portrait. I won't pull it off. I won't be able to do it. Again, the stress there is on success, completion, result. So we get a perfective infinitive. Similar idea with забывать, забыть, успевать, успеть, right? Meaning to forget and to manage to do something in time, right? Well, they just usually, again, they would imply success, right? Uh, think, for example, uspět, right? To get something done in time. Well, it's not that you're trying to go about doing something in time. That doesn't really make much sense, right? It just kind of necessarily implies completion, success, accomplishment, right? So the tendency here would be to see perfective infinitives. We see things like "Я забыла сделать задание." I forgot to do the assignment, right? I forgot to complete the assignment. Or "Я не успел прочитать газету вчера." I didn't manage to get the paper read in time. Perfective, right? I didn't manage to read it. Now, we mentioned this just a moment ago earlier, and we're going to revisit this in book 3. So for now, let's just kind of take note of this and maybe not worry about it too much. But we mentioned that in negated situations, we tend to see the imperfective, especially with verbs like wanting to do something. Like I want to do something versus I don't want to do something. If we get a I don't want to do something, that infinitive is going to be almost always imperfective. Okay, so again, we'll revisit that later. There's more to the story there. It's not worth getting into right now. Take my word for it. But let's just maybe take note of this tendency. Я не хочу смотреть этот фильм. I don't want to watch the movie. One way we could think about this kind of preliminarily is the idea is I don't want to watch this movie at all, right? I don't want to, I have no intention of watching it. I don't want to go about watching it whatsoever, right? Much less completely, right? So that may help you, even at this stage, get a sense of why this calls for the imperfective. Another example, они не хотят отвечать на этот вопрос, right? They don't want to answer the question at all, right? Much less completely, or right? They don't want to even go about answering it in the first place. Okay, let's do an exercise and just choose the most appropriate infinitive based on what little context we have here and what we've just said about choosing infinitives. Okay, and of course, watch out for red flags. Okay, number 1, I love to read Russian poetry. Okay, it's just a general activity that you enjoy doing, so we need imperfective. Люблю читать русскую поэзию. Я люблю читать русскую поэзию. Okay, number 2, she didn't manage to get the assignment done. Успеть, remember it means to manage to do something in time. Okay, again, that kind of entails the idea of accomplishment, so we're going to need perfective. Она не успела сделать задание. Number 3, our friend didn't know how to dance. Poor guy. Наш друг не умел. Okay, we're talking about his general ability. Он не умел танцевать. Right, now think about it. It would be a bit strange to say, our friend didn't know how to dance for a bit. Right, you see how weird that is, right? I mean, I guess it could happen, but it sounds a bit odd, right? You either know how to dance or you don't know how to dance, and we would talk about that general activity using the imperfective. Okay, number 4, we never managed to read everything. Right now, note here, present tense, right? So this is kind of a general statement. We just never have time, maybe in our Russian class, to get everything read. Okay, мы никогда не успеваем все. Okay, what's the tendency here? Well, we tend to see perfective because the emphasis is sort of on accomplishment, right? Мы никогда не успеваем все прочитать. Okay, now here actually though you could have either, right? Since this is such a general kind of blanket statement, this could also very easily be читать, right? We can't keep up with the reading, right? It's not that we're not managing to get this one particular thing read, right? It's a very open-ended statement, right? It's a never statement. Мы никогда не успеваем все читать. So here you could really say either. Number 5. Как ты успеешь все это... Okay, again, this успеть idea. How will you manage to get everything done? Как ты успеешь все это сделать? Right? How will you manage to get all this done? Again, the implication there is completion, right? Success. Мы не сумели, we weren't able to answer the question. We couldn't manage to answer the question. Мы не сумели ответить на вопрос, right? Successfully, right? We couldn't get the question answered. We couldn't answer it successfully. Number 7, he loved every day to watch movies. Okay, so a general activity. Here we also have the каждый день as an additional clue. Он любил каждый день смотреть кино. He liked to watch movies every day. Number 8, I suddenly got the urge to ask how they call her, right? I got the urge to ask her name. Я вдруг захотел спросить, right? Как ее зовут? Right, just a simple one-time action. I got the urge to ask her what her name is, right? Not to go about asking her, not to try to ask, not to be in the process of asking, right? None of that would really make sense. Number 9, ты умеешь, right? Are you able to speak in the Russian way? Are you able to speak Russian? Ты умеешь говорить по-русски? Okay, that's clearly just a general activity, a general ability, imperfective. Number 10, our father forgot to cook dinner. Okay, the emphasis again is on the success, right? The actual accomplishment of cooking dinner. Наш отец забыл приготовить ужин. Okay, number 11, our mom loves to... Sorry, does your mom like to listen to music? Does she love to listen to music? Твоя мама любит слушать музыку. Okay, again, a general proclivity there. Imperfective. I don't want to watch this series. Okay, there's that special case we mentioned with the negation, right? If you don't want to watch the series, you don't want to watch it at all, right? Whatsoever. It's not that you, right, much less watch it completely, right? So here we need to say, я не хочу смотреть этот сериал. Okay, one more irregular verb today, мочь. And we've seen this all, actually, no, I should, God forbid, what did I just say? It's not irregular, right? It's weird, but it's not irregular. We talked about that already, right? It's a ge verb. Although I did mention that a lot of verbs would treat this, a lot of books would treat this as an irregular verb because it is so funny, right? But we're not doing that. We're hardcore, right? We're going to call it a ge verb, and later we will see additional ge verbs. Okay, but let's review this difficult conjugation pattern. And the reason we're doing this today is that it's followed by an infinitive, right? I am able to do something. Or, as we usually would say in English nowadays, I can do something. But in Russian, again, мочь is going to be followed by an infinitive. All right, let's review the conjugation. Могу, remember shifting stress. Могу, можешь, может, можем, можете, могут. Okay, with the mutation in the so-called inner forms, right? Ge and ge on the first and final form, but zh everywhere else. Okay, smoch, which is the perfective, you hear that much more less often than the imperfective, but it's still, we're still going to list it here. And right, adding that prefix s isn't going to change the conjugation pattern. We get smagu, smojish, smojit, smojim, smojite, smogут. Okay, so those would be future in meaning, right? I will be able to, you will be able to, and so forth. Okay, this is our first verb that is irregular in the past tense. Okay, so it's a good one to start with because it's so common. Okay, so remember the vast majority of Russian verbs, no matter how weirdly they may behave in their conjugated forms, past tense form is going to be easy, right? You just take the infinitive, you get rid of the infinitive ending, you add L, and you're off to the races, right? So when we say that a verb is irregular in the past tense, that means that that won't work in one way or another. We can't get the past tense straight from the infinitive. Okay, so мочь is an example of that. So basically, we just have to learn the past tense forms for a verb like that. In this case, they happen to be mog, magla, maglo, magli. Now note that in the masculine form mog, the L, right, that past tense marker has simply dropped out, right? Again, for historical reasons, this happened over time. It's kind of a long story. But for all practical purposes, you could just think of it as being kind of hard to say mogl, mogl, right? In that position with no vowel following it, it's hard to say, so you can maybe understand why it dropped out. Okay, so be sure to note those past tense forms, mog, magla, maglo, magli, while keeping in mind that if past tense forms are irregular, we'll include them in the vocabulary tables, right? Otherwise, we'll just assume that you can form them directly from the infinitive, and so we won't normally list those separately in the vocabulary. Okay, so let's do an infinitive. Let's do an exercise just filling in forms of хотеть, right? That truly irregular verb with мочь, right? So these verbs are used a lot together, right? Someone wants to do something, but they can't do it, that type of combination. Let's try that in some examples in both the present tense, and then let's make those examples past tense to practice the weird forms of мочь in the past. Okay, so let's say we want to listen to music, but we can't. And we could also throw in today if we want. Мы хотим слушать музыку, но не можем. Мы хотим слушать музыку, но не можем. We want to listen to music, but we aren't able to. Okay, how would that be in the past tense? Мы хотели слушать музыку. Okay, so хотеть is regular, right? Like the vast majority of verbs in the past, we just take хотеть, we drop the т, right? The infinitive ending, we add L, and we're off to the races, right? Мы хотели слушать музыку, но не могли, right? There's that irregular past tense form. We wanted to listen to music, but we weren't able. Number two, she wants to work, but she's not able. Она хочет работать, но не может. Okay, past tense, she wanted to work, but wasn't able. Она хотела работать, но не могла. Okay, number three, I want to buy a book, but I'm not able. Я хочу купить книгу, но не могу. Не могу. Okay, past tense, masculine speaker, male speaker. I wanted to buy a book, but I was unable. Я хотел купить книгу, но не мог. Не мог. Remember that final g is devoiced. Sounds like a ka, right? Number five, they want to watch a movie, but they're not able. Sorry, number four, skipped one. I want to solve the problem, but I'm not able. Я хочу решить задачу, но не могу. Versus, and now we're specifying a female speaker. I wanted to solve the problem, but I wasn't able. Я хотела решить задачу, но не могла. Не могла. Right? Here we could also say не смогла, right? Я не смогла решить задачу. I didn't, in the end, I didn't manage to solve the problem. Okay, number five. They want to watch a movie, but they're unable. Они хотят посмотреть фильм, но не могут. They wanted to watch a movie, but they weren't able to. Они хотели посмотреть фильм, но не могли. Number six, you want to do everything, or you want to get everything done, right? Note the perfective, but you're not able. Ты хочешь все сделать, но не можешь. Okay, past tense with the masculine ты. You wanted to do everything, but you weren't able. Or again, you wanted to get everything done, but you weren't able. Ты хотел все сделать, но не мог. Or again, here we could say не смог, right? The perfective. You didn't, in the end, you didn't manage, you weren't able to get everything done. Okay, number seven, you, let's say plural, you wanted to understand the question, but you weren't able. Вы хотели понять вопрос, но не... Sorry, present tense. You want to understand the question, but you're not able. Вы хотите понять вопрос, но не можете. Okay, you wanted to understand the question, but weren't able. And again, вопрос could be translated as matter, right? You wanted to understand this issue, this matter, this question. Вы хотели понять вопрос, но не могли. Вы не могли. Okay, you could, as an exercise, you could try saying a few things, right? I want to do something, but I'm not able yet, right? Or literally, I'm still not able. Right? For example, я хочу свободно говорить по-русски, но еще не могу. I want to speak Russian fluently, or by the way, свободно means literally freely, right? I want to speak it freely, or as we'd say, fluently, but I'm still not able, or I'm not able to yet. For example, would you like to do these things? Свободно говорить по-русски, speak Russian fluently. Хорошо танцевать, to dance well. Хорошо готовить, right, to cook well. Купить новую машину, to buy a new car. Читать «Войну и мир», to read War and Peace. Now there's a nice example, right? At this point, you'd probably like to читать War and Peace, right? Just to read it generally, because we're talking about your Russian language skills. But if you wanted to talk about wanting to read it, right, to get through the whole thick novel, right, to emphasize success, accomplishment, completion, then you would, of course, say «Я хочу прочитать «Войну и мир». What about receiving the Nobel Prize? Получить Нобелевскую премию. I've given up all hope on that one. I thought for a while maybe there might be a chance, but now I realize there's just no hope for me. Okay, what about написать симфонию? What about writing a symphony? Okay, and by the way, note that that's perfective, right? I guess any of us could go about writing a symphony, but it wouldn't be very good in my case, right? The idea, I guess, is to successfully write a symphony, right? To completely write a symphony. What about написать великий роман, right? To write a great novel. There's another hope that I've given up on. Right, because at some point I realized I'm a bad writer. I've got no talent, right? So I stopped even entertaining this idea of writing a novel, right? Sometimes I wish more people would have that self-awareness, right? That you're just not that good of a writer, right? And there are enough novels out there anyway. Okay, anyway, sorry, I'll get off my soapbox. Okay, отдохнуть. I want to relax, but I'm not able. Отдохнуть, that's perfective. Okay, that's enough for today. Tomorrow we'll move on with day 20. We'll talk a bit about subordinate clauses, of which we've seen quite a few examples already. But now we'll sort of talk about those more carefully. And then we'll be done with chapter 2. And after that, it'll be onward to new victories, right? Вперед к новым победам. Onward to new victories, товарищи. Until then, до свидания.